People are splitting up. After Chinese New Year, suddenly, there's all these videos popping up online showing folks lining up to end their marriages. They're saying these lines are crazy long, stretching right out of the civil offices. According to Shandong Business News, on February 18th, the first working day after Chinese New Year, Ms. Wang went to the Civil Affairs Bureau in Huainan, Anhui Province to register for marriage. She found a long line at the divorce registration section. Ms. Wang stated that on that day, only 5 couples got married, but about 100 couples filed for divorce. A few days later, the situation seemed to take a turn. Chinese authorities have come forward to dispel rumors, stating that certain individuals were spreading false information. They said the rumors were disseminated on short video platforms, which attracted attention from various media outlets, leading to negative social repercussions. Following an investigation, law enforcement agencies have detained those responsible for spreading the rumors in accordance with the law. Leaving aside whether it's a rumor or not, those familiar with China know that typically, when official media outlets debunk rumors, they tend to be accurate. It's undeniable that China's divorce rate has been steadily increasing in recent years. According to the Chinese Ministry of Civil Affairs, in the first quarter of 2023, the national marriage registration volume in China was 2.1 million couples, while the divorce registration volume was 641,000 couples. Compared to the first quarter of 2022, these figures represent an increase of 40,000 couples and 127,000 couples, respectively. In other words, the number of divorces has increased approximately threefold compared to the number of marriages. According to Chinese authorities, the divorce rate in 2022 was 43.5%. This means that nearly half of all marriages ended in divorce. Tianjin had the highest divorce rate at 60%, ranking first. Following closely was Heilongjiang with a divorce rate of 58%, and the capital, Beijing, had a divorce rate of 53%. In 2019, China witnessed over 20,000 couples divorcing on average every day, marking a staggering 17% increase compared to the previous year. This trend has persisted for 7 consecutive years. Consequently, some scholars are concerned that China might soon have the highest divorce rate in the world. A particular note is the significant presence of people born in the 80s and 90s among those divorced in China. They constitute a whopping 51% of the divorcing population, indicating a generational shift in marital trends. Why has love and marriage in China become so fragile? The older generation of Chinese people typically view marriage as a lifelong commitment, advocating for mutual endurance and compromise even in the face of marital issues. But now, Chinese people, particularly those born in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, often come from single-child families. They have been raised with a strong focus on self, prioritizing personal emotions and happiness. Many exhibit a trend towards impulsive marriages and quick divorces at the slightest disagreement. They are unwilling to invest time and energy in an unhappy union when problems arise, thus opting for divorce. Economic pressure is one of the significant factors contributing to the high divorce rate. Particularly after COVID, China's economy has been trending downward. Many families are unable to afford high mortgages and car loans. Moreover, some individuals, or even both spouses, have become victims of mass layoffs before the Chinese New Year. During holidays, especially the Chinese New Year, household expenses tend to escalate, exacerbating financial burdens. Additionally, during festive occasions, there is an unconscious tendency among relatives and friends to compare one another. Consequently, this exacerbates conflicts between spouses due to financial issues. There is a Chinese saying, "Poor couples endure 100 sorrows." In addition to financial pressure, infidelity, domestic violence, gambling, and surprisingly, trivial matters of daily life are commonly cited reasons for divorce. Statistics show that divorces due to trivial matters of daily life account for a surprising 34%. There was a widely discussed post online titled, "Marriage of 10 Years Lost to 4 Days of Unwashed Dishes." It tells the story of a couple married for a decade. The husband is a homebody who doesn't smoke, drink, or go out often. He takes his job seriously and hands over most of his earnings to his wife, but he neglects household chores and childcare responsibilities entirely. Even when his parents fell ill, it was his wife who took them to the hospital. During a period when the wife was particularly busy with work, the husband would finish his meals and leave the dishes piled up in the kitchen for 4 days, until the wife's workload lightened and she decided to wash the dishes herself. As she washed, she felt angry and aggravated, tears streaming down her face. At that moment, she made the decision to divorce him. Her family criticized her, dismissing her feelings as being overly dramatic. At the time, no one knows how many days of unwashed dishes, how many skipped meals, and how many years of discontent had accumulated in her heart. There's a saying, all departures are long planned. Those 4 days worth of unwashed dishes were merely the spark that ignited the marital bombshell. In traditional Chinese culture, spouses are expected to treat each other with mutual respect, reverence, and patience. However, in modern China, marriages often seem restless, where people are quick to find someone else when problems arise. This sentiment is becoming common, leading to a lack of emphasis on marital relationship maintenance and subsequently driving up divorce rates. The high divorce rates, coupled with expensive dowries, have also discouraged many eligible and even older unmarried individuals from tying the knot, as they find themselves unable to afford it. The gentleman remarked, "When I got married, whether it was 500 RMB or 5,000 RMB, it didn't matter. But now, can you afford to get married with just 50,000 RMB? Girls, if your family offers a dowry of 50,000 RMB, would you dare to marry? And for boys, if they can't afford a dowry of 500,000 RMB, will they dare to marry? Go back and ask your elders, did they face such pressure back in their days?" The elderly gentleman, who appears to be in his 50s or 60s at most, assuming he got married in his 20s, which is about 30 years ago. At that time, the cost of getting married was only 500 RMB. Fast forward 30 years later, and the cost of marriage in China has increased by at least 5,000 times. The young man said, "I'm afraid of getting married. I have 3 older brothers, and after they got married, they weren't as happy as before. They felt miserable."
Why aren't the 90s generation getting married now?
The generation born after 2000 aren't getting married either. Marriage. There are 100 million single people among the 90s generation. Nowadays, young people are too lazy even to bother with dating, let alone getting married. Although this video is a skit, it reflects the true sentiments of young people in China towards marriage and love. In December last year, according to China Population and Employment Statistics Yearbook 2023, data on the marital status of people aged 15 and above by age and gender revealed that last year among various age groups, the unmarried rate for individuals aged 25 to 29 was 51.3%, while for those aged 30 to 34, it reached 18.4%, and for those aged 35 to 39, it was 8%. The topic, unmarried rate exceeding 50% for those aged 25 to 29, quickly trended on Chinese blog site Weibo and attracted over 200 million views. Most people believe,
what does it matter whether you get married or not? Which one contributes more to GDP, marriage or work?
Marriage will only make me poorer, burdened with debt. Why should I get married? A lady commented,
I'm also a foot masseuse, and I heard a guy complain. He earns 8,000 RMB a month and lives quite comfortably alone in Beijing. He can afford to get a foot massage every week. He said he started dating a girlfriend. He spent all his salary in the first week. Before that, he had saved money for 5 or 6 years, but within half a year of dating his girlfriend, he spent it all. In the end, the woman dumped him because she thought he was poor. It's really heartbreaking. Spending the same amount of money on a dog would get you something in return, but spending it on a woman got him nothing but heartache.
Su Jian, director of the National Economic Research Center at Peking University, stated in an interview with Chinese media that changing social norms, high life pressures, and the high cost of child rearing are the main reasons why young people are not getting married. In the past, there was an old saying in China, there are 3 unfilial acts, with childlessness being the greatest, especially as many families traditionally aimed to have a son to continue the family line. Things have changed now. Now the thinking is, what can a young person gain from marriage? This young man says, my current standard of living is average, and there's too much responsibility after marriage. The social pressure nowadays is immense. Unlike our parents' generation, I can barely support myself now. Think about it. Having a child these days, you have to send them to kindergarten, enroll them in extracurricular classes. After they graduate, you have to use connections to help them find a job and buy a house. I don't even dare to think about it. Based on my current salary level, if I don't eat or drink, I'd still have to work for 2 more lifetimes. Su Jian stated that the high cost of living, immense social pressure, and the high cost of child-rearing with minimal economic returns are major obstacles hindering young people from getting married and having children. Additionally, the continuous rise in housing prices, education costs, and medical expenses makes things worse. According to historical data, 2013 marked the peak of first marriages in China, reaching about 13.5 million couples. Since then, according to the Ministry of Civil Affairs, the number of marriages has been declining annually, with 2022 marking a new low since the ministry had related records in 1986. As the divorce rate and the rate of people remaining single continue to rise in China, local governments have implemented policies to promote marriage. For example, the government of Changshan County in Zhejiang Province introduced a policy offering a 1,000 RMB reward to newlywed couples if the bride is 25 years old or younger. But many people remain skeptical. A blogger with over 500,000 followers wrote, "If marriage is such a good thing, why the need for incentives? If there's free money on the ground, everyone knows to pick it up." The post received over 26,000 likes. Last year, the term four-nose youth began circulating on Chinese social media, referring to individuals who do not date, marry, buy houses, or have children due to the high cost. But in less than 10 months in 2024, these four-nose youth evolved into 10-nose youth. The 10-nose refer to not getting married, not having children, not buying houses, not donating blood, not donating money, not buying lottery tickets, not investing in the stock market, not buying funds, not helping elderly people, and not being moved emotionally. The inclusion of not donating blood stems from an incident that occurred in November last year. It was about a woman named Yu Yanyan from Shanghai. She posted a video on Douyin, the Chinese version of TikTok, in a boastful manner, revealing that after a car accident in Ali, Tibet, on October 14th, her aunt used her connections to have public servants in Ali donate 7,000 milliliters of blood for her. Her family also spent a whopping 1.2 million RMB to charter a plane to transfer her to Huaxi Hospital in Chengdu for treatment, with police cars escorting the transfer. The entire process even became a positive news story and was featured on the Communist Party construction zone bulletin board at the hospital. Afterwards, people investigated the background of the woman's aunt and found that her name is Yu Yanghong, who serves as a director of National Administration of Traditional Chinese Medicine. People exclaimed, "So that's how it works." In China, as an ordinary citizen, you simply cannot enjoy such privileges. If you have to spend years studying hard and become a government employee, you might think that you can become the one wielding the sickle to harvest the leeks. The reality proves that if your official position is not high enough, you're still just a leek. Indeed, behind every no in the 10 no's, there's a narrative. The stance against blood donation not only challenges privileges, but also mirrors the apprehension within the Chinese populace that blood donation could lead to not just the loss of their organs, but also their lives, as they might be quietly taken away by the authorities. The 10 no's represent crucial lessons absorbed by the Chinese populace, summarizing strategies to sidestep the numerous pitfalls laid by the CCP. This is because in China, the government emerges as the most significant source of deception. 40 to 50 years ago, the CCP implemented the family planning policy. Whether in rural areas or urban areas across the country, slogans like, "If you should undergo a vasectomy but do not, the house collapses. If you should get an abortion but do not, your houses will be demolished and trees will be uprooted. Those who evade family planning today, they will return home tomorrow with nothing." No matter how you abort the child, it must be prevented from being born. Better to add 10 graves than to add one person. For every excess birth, the whole village gets sterilized. These dystopian slogans were everywhere. But around 2010, the CCP realized a dwindling population was problematic. So they changed their strategy and began to allow people to have a second and eventually a third child. The slogans for the birth control policy also changed from the previous grisly ones to, "One child is not enough, 2 children are better, as they have a companion when young and old." Having 3 children is best. You, the parents, have support when you're old. Listen to the party. Have 3 children. You will have no overtime, have weekends off, and receive subsidies for the 3rd child's milk powder. Why not have another one when you're already raising 1 or 2? In addition, regarding retirement and elderly care, in 2005, the CCP officially promoted the idea that one cannot rely solely on the government for retirement. In 2012, they advocated for postponing retirement is good so that you can take care of your own retirement. Faced with repeated deception, the Chinese people began to awaken. It's not that they don't want to get married, have children, or buy houses, but rather, they can't afford to, so they have no choice but to adopt the lying flat culture, be indifferent, and move from the 4 no's to the 10 no's. Perhaps in the future, it will evolve into 20 no's or 30 no's. With the increasing trends in divorce rates and the growing number of individuals opting not to marry or have children in China, worries are mounting about the country's future demographic landscape.